Good afternoon and welcome to our seminar. My name is Elaine Niebele. I'll be presenting this series of 6 English language SOFinars on the topic of SOFiPLUS 2010. So in today's seminar I'll take you through the basic process of inputting a two-dimensional concrete slab system into SOFiPLUS 2010. First, I'd like to introduce you to the GoToWebinar software for a short time. Then we'll move on to today's topic of system generation 2D, concrete structure with structural elements. There will be some time at the end if you'd like to ask any questions. This SOFinar will be recorded and will be available to view later on at the SOFistic website info portal page. Okay, so first of all, here is an overview of the GoToWebinar software. You should be able to see this window on your computer now. You may need to click on the arrow here to expand. There is the option here to view the SOFinar in full screen, which is this button here. And the option for raising your hand will be deactivated this time. It's possible to use your telephone to listen in also. In here you will see a number that you can dial to do that. You will need a touch-tone phone for this if you'd like to use it. In the bottom of this screen you will see here a box where you can type in a question at any point. But it would be better to wait until the end to do this. Just a note on the audio settings. All of the participants will be muted, so you won't be able to speak and be heard, but everybody should be able to hear me. Okay, so now we'll move on to SOFiPLUS. I'll open that. And here you will see the screen layout. Now the most important thing to note here is the SOFiPLUS sidebar, where you'll find all of the tools that you'll need to create your system. For those of you who are more familiar with the older versions of SOFiPLUS, the original SOFiPLUS toolbar is still available, which you can find by right-clicking in the toolbar area and selecting it from the SOFiPLUS menu. So, here is my file that I've already set up. I've set up some areas here. These are 6 meters by 6 meters each. And here I have a rounded area to represent a balcony. So to begin the project, we go over to the sidebar and we click on the System Edit System Information tab button. This is the first screen that you will need to use when you set up your project. In this case, I've already saved this project, so some of the details have been greyed out. But you will need to enter your own information for this. So here in the title bar, you can give your project a name. And the database and directory are where you have saved your file and what your data files will be called here on the database. In the design code section, you have the option to select a number of different codes, and in the drop-down box here you will find a number of country flags where you can also select codes specific to your country. For the general pure Eurocodes, you will find these under the EN symbol. Where there are national annexes for the Eurocodes, you will find those within the national flag. Okay, so in this case we have a 2D concrete structure, so I've selected a 2D slab here, and for the rest of the settings we've used the default settings. So there you will click OK. The next thing to note, in the Sys tab you will see we have some materials already specified here. There are materials set up for concrete here and for a reinforcing steel. Now you can modify the properties of these by right-clicking and selecting Properties, or you can also delete and create new materials. So here I'm going to modify the properties of this concrete. In here I'm going to change the classification of the concrete from a C20 to a C30, and I'll select that from the drop-down box here. There are also further options for specifying other material properties. I'll confirm that by clicking OK. So you see now in the bar the concrete property name has changed. So now we're going to create our first structural area. In the sidebar I'm going to go to the Structural Element tab, and then I'm going to select the Create Structural Areas tool, and the following dialog window will appear. Here you can specify a number for your area and also assign it to a group, and if the box is selected here, your group numbers will automatically increase as you add areas. So here we're going to use a default thickness of 0.2 meter, 200 millimeters, and we're going to go onto the drawing and right click, and then I'm going to select an area by using Point in Area. And then I move my cursor into the area I wish to choose, click, and here appears a load window to apply loads to that structural area. So in this case we have a dead load, which is called load case number 1. In here I'm going to specify 1, and we also have the possibility to include an imposed load, which is given load case 2, and here I'm going to enter 3. And I leave the auto increment load cases option ticked here. Every time I enter a new structural area, the load case number for the imposed load will increase. So now I'm going to click OK to accept. And I close the structural area window, and when I zoom in to my structural area, you can see here now it says I have my structural area number 1, I have my dead load of 1 and my live load, my imposed load of 3. So next I'm going to create a second structural area. I'm going to click on the same Create Structural Areas tool. I'm going to leave the default thickness in there. As you can see, the numbering has automatically incremented to number 2. This time I'm going to select by using a rectangle. So I right click on the drawing area and select rectangle, and there I will select opposing corners of the area. The load dialog box appears again. This time you can see that load case has incremented itself to 3. It still has the same value of 3. I'm going to accept that and close the tool and go again and have a look, and here you can see that I have my second area and my imposed load case has auto incremented. So now I'm going to create another structural area, this time by selecting the lines around the area. So I right click on my drawing, and here I select Pick Lines or Curves, and this time all I do is I go around and select each line in turn. And as soon as the last line is entered, I have the load box again. I accept that and close the tool. What you should note in SOFiPLUS is that all of the CAD functions are available for use with the structural elements. So for instance, I'd like to copy these 3 areas. So I'm going to use the Copy tool from the AutoCAD toolbar, and then I'm going to select my 3 areas, and I right click to accept those, and then I select a point of reference and move them. And then close the tool. Here you can see where I have copied my structural areas. The area number has incremented itself. However, the load cases that were assigned to the original will be copied. So in this case, I have the same imposed load case as the original element. These can be edited manually, but we will cover that in a further SOFiPLUS in a couple of weeks' time. So next I'm going to create a structural area in my rounded balcony area. So I go back to my Create Structural Areas tool in the sidebar, and then I'm going to use Point in Area again because it's got the irregular shape here. I just accept those loads, and there's my last structural area. So the next tool I'll show you is the AutoCAD Move. So here I'm going to select some elements here, right click to accept those, and then I'm going to move them over a little. You can also use the Delete tool, which is here, and simply select your elements and right click to accept those. I'm also going to delete these two areas here, which you can do by selecting and then clicking on Erase. So now I have my two structural areas left. The next thing I'm going to do is to create some line supports, which I'm going to do by using the Modify Structural Lines tool from the sidebar, which is next to the Create Structural Line tool. To the right of all of those tools is a Modify tool. So I'll select that. Oh, I beg your pardon. I do mean to create structural lines. And in this case, to create my supports, I'm going to open the Support Conditions tab. And in here I can specify a vertical support in the ZZ direction. So I will select that, go back to my drawing, I'll right click and then select Pick Lines or Curves. Beg your pardon, it's having a little trouble with my tool there. So there we go. I select the first line, second line, and the third line. And I'll close that tool down. The next thing we're going to do